Hello, it's Magnus from the Kindness Consultancy here. This is a companion video to my video that I put together with all the smart Kindfest speakers who answer the question, what is kindness at work? I then went on to ask them a second question, which is, what is the place of kindness at work? I really wanted to explore how kindness fitted into the modern work environment. So I hope you enjoy this little compilation of some very smart people telling you their views on what the place of kindness at work is. Thank you. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
I think, having been a equality, diversity and inclusion practitioner for over 20 years now, kindness really has showed itself to be an essential characteristic. So when you're embracing that sort of cognitive diversity, when you're checking biases, when you're trying to open up people's eyes to those invisible discriminators and working in that sort of alleged victim and perpetrator dynamic, it's really essential. So in order to sort of like foster that sort of belonging, when it's an ever more diverse team that you've got around you, that kindness really helps to build that connection. So it sort of allows individuals then to be the most authentic versions of themselves, which is what you want. You want people to be able to bring their whole selves to work. I think being kind means living your values. And demonstrating that humility and really standing up for what is right, however hard that might be. And I should say that's something which a lot of employees really do demand now within their workplace.
Increasingly a huge part. The fact that we're talking about it so much, quite literally every day, my feed now is popping up with lots of things to do with kindness. I think it's become a thing that people are no longer holding back from. So I'm really, really grateful that we've got the chance to do that, because I think for too long it's all been about the macho success and the kind of visible signs of power ascending. And now I think what's really making a difference to people is where other people are showing up in a work context and they're saying, there's something I can do for you that would help you with what you're doing in the work you're doing. So it's this kind of offer of whatever's needed, but it's equally not an expected, like enforced offer. It's like, you're not capable, so I'm going to take it away from you. It is, if you need what I have, then I'm going to be kind in the way I let you have that, almost like knowledge or support or guidance or whatever it might be. And I think it's about providing some assuring feelings for people that whatever is happening with them at work is not something they should feel stigmatized about or unable to share, and that actually a person offering kindness in a working sense of the situation is all about, you couldn't get safer in sharing what's going on with you than right now with me at this moment in time. There's an obligation on you as a person acting in that kind way to almost deal with that fragility, but have a real kind of firmness about how strongly you're going to hold that. And I think that's the sort of gestures that are really making a difference to people, especially in a working environment where the challenges and the tensions and the complexity can be quite baffling for people. So they can't compute, they feel a sense of helplessness perhaps, or an urge to do something, but they just don't know what. So I think where kindness is manifesting itself is in that assuring way that it is safe right now with me to share whatever you want, and I'll be kind with it, and we will get you into a more helpful situation for whatever it is you're facing.
Mentioned that I'm part of a global consulting firm, and kindness is absolutely the backbone to our success, because empathy is essential to truly understanding clients. We talk about clients as organizations and as teams, but it's important to think about clients as people. And we need to appreciate our clients' vision and strategy and drivers, and importantly, their values. And the interesting thing about where we are now as well is that millennials are starting to turn 40 and are emerging as leaders in organizations. And millennials are really underlining the importance of value-led organizations with key topics such as inclusion and diversity and mental health. And these are no longer nice to have, but critical keystones upon which millennials design career paths and relate to their organizations. So we're hearing a lot more about kindness and empathy and community and ESG. And these are drivers and absolutely indicators of corporate success.
We are taught a lot of things as young executives, and that's not me anymore, but as young executives, as young workers, in whatever market sector one may operate. We're taught about ambition, we're taught about competition, we're taught about shareholder value, market penetration, all sorts of terms, buzzwords, keywords, and each one is incredibly important in its own time. And sometimes we lose sight of the forest for the trees, or the trees for the forest. I never know the terminology, forgive me. But what kindness does is, if we start exploring it as a concept, as a state of being in our personal lives and bring it with us to work, it allows us to give space not just to others and their ideas and their contributions, but to our own creative and innovative potential. Because I think we realize our greatest potential when we allow space for others to contribute to it. When it's just about me, just about my ideas, then we're only asking people to listen to us. We're not asking them to contribute to the conversation. It's why I don't enjoy giving speeches, because then it's just my voice. I enjoy having conversations because somebody like yourself is able to ask me a question or able to make an observation that can elevate my thinking that I wouldn't be able to do on my own. And so when one brings kindness, one brings the ability to allow space for others. And then the ideas that we might have brought with us become enriched, enhanced, and we all collectively become empowered to engender solutions and services and products that are much, much more meaningful and powerful than they would be otherwise.
Well, I think kindness has a really central role to play in the work. Well, I think in every aspect of all of our lives, but I think particularly in the workforce, because I think in work is an area where we have really devalued and misunderstood the place of kindness. And I have been a lawyer all of my professional life and worked in venture capital for many, many years, which is a field that is not known for its kindness, right? Let's put it like that. And my experience actually of being in those sorts of environments where kindness is devalued and often conflated with weakness or, being a doormat or something, those kind of misunderstandings that are really common. I noticed that for me, as somebody who was, certainly as a child and a young person, naturally kind and always was recognized for that I lost it. I lost the ability to really see the other as other. And I think it was very interesting for me to note that we're so heavily influenced by the energy. It really struck me that although we all like to think of ourselves as kind people and basically good people and good citizens and all the rest of it, we don't realize how perniciously influenced we are by the culture that we work in. And so that was really when it came home to me how profoundly that had been undermined in myself, was when I really began a kind of a deeper a journey of personal development, and which gradually kind of led me out of that world and into the world of Peace Beam. And I think what that showed me as well is that the degree of influence that the culture of a workplace has on us then ripples out and affects every part of our lives. It affects how we interact with our families, how we interact with our friends, how we interact with our community, our neighbors, at a national level and then at an international level. So I think, given the amount of time that people spend in work and in those cohorts and in those cultures, it is absolutely fundamental that kindness is woven into that fabric, because we live with the results of the alternative, don't we? I mean, we're reaping the rewards of 40 years of a neoliberalist kind of overculture, which tells us that these things aren't important. I'm always reminded, you know, I don't know if you remember that series Mad Men. There was a scene in that, and I think it was Don Draper, and one of the secretaries says to him, you know, I do all of this stuff for you every single day and you never say thank you. And he just looks at her and says, that's what the money's for, right? And that kind of culture is just something that was completely normalized, that, you know, you're paid, so it doesn't really matter how you're treated or how anybody else is treated. And you know, when you're in an environment where larger and larger amounts of money are involved, the impact, it almost has a direct effect on kind of neutralizing our natural wiring for empathy and compassion, or certainly that's been my experience. So the short answer is very important.
You know, I think that it's probably coming from the point of view that when we look at, again, what are those conditions that give rise to us actually enjoying the work that we do and who we work with, we seek out, I think, a fundamental sense of safety, first and foremost. And in environments where fear or uncertainty and ambiguity, which is already sort of the outward conditions we're all dealing with at a very extreme level, there needs to be, I think, a baseline of that feeling of trust and safety in order for us to be able to do our best work, to feel engaged, and to feel that we can actually have the space to engage with our best work, that which brings us that sense of joy and flow and self-actualization. And so the causes and conditions that are required for that are things like kindness and trust and safety and openness and the feeling of being welcomed. And so I think because it feels good, and I think because it gives rise to so many other positive qualities and possibilities for positive impact, that we're naturally moving in that direction because it feels good, feels right.
Well, I think if you'd asked me this a year ago, I would have said, well, yeah, it's nice to be kind and, you know, it's important for inclusion and so on. But this year has demonstrated that kindness is absolutely fundamental in the workplace, especially when we're going through times of crises, of times of adversity. So I think, if anything, it's shown us that it's about getting back to what's important, and the thing that's important in any business are the people, and I think, you know, when we show kindness to our own people, then it really does help them to feel that they belong in the business, that they want to be there, that they want to give their best. So, you know, I'm not glad that we've had COVID-19. Of course I'm not, but I am happy that it's really caused organizations and those who lead them to recognize the important aspect of the workforce, and how important it is to be kind to one another and focus on their well-being.
You know, there are a lot of conversations around the meaning of the words nice and kind, and I actually don't think the two words are the same thing. A synonym to kindness for me is not about being nice, it's about showing 360 degrees of respect, communicating with values at every level, whether you're talking to consumers, employees, or the communities where you do business. This is an imperative in today's workplace. I think the building blocks of kindness are also the two core principles of leading with purpose. The first is demonstrating empathy in everything that you do. The second is listening, not just to listen, but as an organizational principle. And without these core principles, our purpose is truly hollow.
Well, without the danger, the hazard of repeating myself, really, we know that productivity increases. We know efficiency is better. You know, we know that people give more extra hours. The key seems to be three things: being appreciated, having an explicit, transparent fairness and justice in processes. So it's not Buggins' turn for promotion, or who you know for promotion. It's seen as fair. They're the three key characteristics that make somebody be more motivated to stay with the company. And nobody chooses a career to be bored. People want to work in a place that makes them feel like they're doing something, either for themselves or their family or for society. Managers and leaders don't do that. If they're autocratic, if they don't share, if they give foggy information, or if they make promises, you won't lose your job, but then people lose their job. That lack of trust or breakdown of trust. What happens is you get a higher turnover, and that has a cost for an organization. So kindness at work is really, really important. It's hugely underrated. Hugely underrated in terms of mentorship, supervision, management, leadership.